Okay, so this is test to review. There are 20 questions. Question number 1, express the given fraction as a percentage. So to express the fraction as a percentage, just divide 4 over 5. So if you do that, let's say I'm going to use a calculator here. 4 divided by 5, and then it's 0.8. So move that decimal sign 2 digit to the right. So how do you do that? So 0.8, so if we divide 4 by 5, 4 divided 5 is 0.8, which is actually, you can also write it down as a 0.80, and you can add as many zero as you want. And to change that into percentage, you just have to move this decimal sign 2 digit to the right. Okay, so that would be 80 point, and rest of the digits there are zero, so you don't have to write down that. So it's just a 80%. So 4 over 5 means it's 80%. Okay. Okay, express the given decimal as percentage. It's a 0.68. Move that decimal 2 digit to the right. So if you do that, it goes to there 6 and 8, so that will be 68%. After 68 there are zeros, so it doesn't matter actually. Okay, what about the percentage? To express the percentage as a decimal, you just have to divide the number, whatever number you have given, by 100. That's your decimal. Or what you can do is, another way is, because we would like to convert this 67% into decimal, then what we can do is, let's say 67 also can be written as 67.000, as many zero as you want. Move this decimal to the left this time, 2 places, 2 digit to the left. So if you do that, this decimal goes here. That's the one way. Or just use your calculator and divide 67 by 100. That also gives you the same answer. In this case, it's a 0.67. Okay, what about 0.3? 0.3 is what percentage of 7.5? To answer that question, what percentage? Just take this number, whatever number you have. In this case, it's a 0.3, and divide that by total 7.5, and then multiply that by 100. That will be the percentage. So multiply that by 100. I'm going to do that here. Divide 0.3 by 7.5, and then to express this as a percentage, you can just multiply this by 100. So that means move this decimal sign to the 2 digit to the right, which also can be found by multiplying by 100, which is 4. Okay, that's a 4%. So 0.3 is a 4% of 7.5. The price of a cell phone is reduced by 30% of its original price. When it still does not sell, its price is reduced by 40% of the reduced price. The salesperson informs you that there has been a total reduction of 70%. Is the salesperson using percentage properly? If not, what is the actual percentage reduction from the original price? So look at here. Let's assume that the original price was $100, just to make it easy. Okay, let's assume that the original price is $100. So initially the price reduced by 30%. So 30% of $100 is $30. So it reduced by $30. So now the new price would be $70. Now it reduced, so 30% reduction gives you $70, and then 40% of this $70 reduction. So what is the 40% of 70? So what you can do, 40% means 0.4 times 70, so that is $28. So the reduction would be $28. Here the reduction was $30, Here the reduction is 28 from this $70. So 70 minus 28 is 42. So the new price would be 42. Okay, the salesperson informed you that there has been a total reduction of 70%. But if you know the 70% of 100 would be, if you reduce 70%, that would be actually $30 only, $30. But still there is a $42. So the answer is no. There is an actual reduction of so you need to find the percentage now. So it went from 100 to 42. So actual reduction is what is that? What's the difference? It's a 58%. So no. What is the question? The question is the salesperson is the salesperson using percentage properly? The answer is no. Okay, and there is an actual reduction of, what is the reduction? From 100 to 48, that's a 58%. So that's 58%. Okay, it's not 70% actually. A condominium is taxed based on its 78,894 value. The tax rate is 3.48 for every 100 of value. So it's a 3.48%. If the tax is paid before March 1, 3% of the normal tax is given as a discount. How much tax is paid if the condominium owner takes advantage of the discount? So the tax rate is 3.48% because 3.48 for $100 means that's the percentage. And if the tax is paid before March 1, 3% of the normal tax is given as a discount. So not in the rate, but 3% of the normal tax. So what is the tax for 78? This is the 3.48%. And if the, okay, so what is that? Okay, so this is the property value and this is the tax rate. The tax rate is, in our case, it's a $3.48. So $3.48 out of 100 means it's actually 3.48%. Okay, so we need to find out the total tax for 78,894. The 3.48% is, you have to multiply that by 0.0348. That gives you the total tax, which is what is that? 78894 times it by 0.0348. The tax supposed to be $2,745 and 51 cents. Okay, out of this is the total tax without any discount. But if you pay, they give you if you pay by March 1, they give you 3% discount on this tax rate. So just multiply this by 3%, which is 0.03, and that's the discount you are going to get. So 3% of $2,745 is $82 approximately. So you have to subtract this amount from the original tax, which is, I'm going to just subtract 2745.5112. That's supposed to be, it's not negative because I subtracted the higher number from the lower number, that's why it's negative. So I'm going to make it positive. So this is the tax paid with the discount, 3% discount, which is $2,663. And let's see if they want us to round to the 2 decimal place. So 2663.15. So 2663.15 cents. So that's the tax they pay with the 3% discount. Remember, when you calculate the 3%, that's the 3% for actual tax. Okay, use the 2021 marginal tax rates to compute the tax owed by the following couple. Married filing jointly with a taxable income 98,000. If you click it, you can see that there are different columns. find out the right column, married filing jointly. So married, each partner married and both partner file a single tax. What is that? Unmarried, married and each partner files a separate tax filing jointly. This column, which is one, two, third column, is the column we're going to look, because married filing jointly is this one. And then after that, look at the tax, income tax, which is 98,000. So in this column, up to 19,900, the tax rate is 10%, and then in between here to here the tax rate is 12%, and then for the leftover, which is 98,000, so that is 22%. So first of all, you need to find out how much tax they need to pay from each bracket. So let's say 98,000 here. So 98,000 is the initial balance, the initial amount, but out of 98,000, the 19,900 is tax with rate 10%, right? It's a 10%, so you have to multiply that by 0.1. That's the tax amount you pay. Now from this 98,000, 19,900 is gone, so the leftover balance after subtracting this value, if you subtract 19,900 from this, that will be what is that, 78,100. I can use calculator while I'm doing that. So it's 98,000 minus 19,900, 19,000, okay, 98,000 minus 19,900, so the difference is 78,100. So out of this 78,100, if you look at the second row for the 12%, it's a difference between 81 minus this number. So our number is greater than that. So the difference between these two numbers, if you try to find out, which is 81,050 bucks minus 19,900, the difference is, oh, I multiplied. So 81,050 minus 19,900, the difference is, for the 61,150 bucks, for the 61,150 bucks, 61,150 bucks, because there is still more than that, the rate is 12%, so you have to multiply that by 12%. And for the leftover money, which is if you subtract 61,150 bucks from this number, the leftover money would be, I'm going to use calculator here, subtract this 61,150 from 78,100, and the remaining amount is 16,950. 16,950. For the third row, as you can see here, from 81,000 to 172, this is more than 16,950. That is tax with the rate 22%. So for the remaining balance, which is 16,950, you have to multiply that by 22. So if you add all these three numbers, that will give you the total tax. So I'm going to do that. For the first one, 19,900 times 10%, which is 1990, plus. Now for the rest of the calculation, I'm going to use the parenthesis because I don't want the calculator confused about plus and multiplication. So just use the either calculate them separately here and add them all, or use your calculator properly. You have to know how to use a calculator. So I'm going to multiply 61,150 by 12%. I'm going to close the parenthesis, plus, And I need another parenthesis for the third calculation, which is 16,950 times 22%, close the parenthesis, and then total is 13,057 bucks. So the total tax is 13,000. What is that? 13,057. Read the instruction, type an integer or decimal, round to the nearest cent. Okay, that's correct. Okay, you decide to work part-time at a local supermarket. The job pays $13.50 per hour and you work 19 hours per week. So your employer withholds 10% of your gross pay for federal taxes, 7.65% for FICA taxes, and 3% for state taxes. So these are the information you have given. What is your weekly gross pay? So gross pay means without, uh, you know, without holding the taxes. So that is $13.50 times how many hours? 19 hours. So that is the gross pay, which is 256 bucks 50 cents. 256 bucks 50 cents. That's the gross pay. Okay. And now, how much is withhold per week for federal tax? Remember, federal tax is 10%. So 10% of this is $25.65. Round to the nearest cent, so $25.65. 65 cents. How much is the withheld per week for FICA? So FICA is 7.65 of original amount. So you always have to use original, the total gross pay to calculate these taxes, which is 7.65, which is 0.0765, which is $19.62. A nearest cent, so $19.62. How much is withheld for per week for state tax? State tax is 3%. Remember, again, the taxes is from the gross pay. So gross pay is $256.50 times 3%, which is $7.70. So $7.70. So what is the net pay? Net pay is you just have to subtract all these taxes from your gross pay, which is, I'm going to do that, $256.50 minus 25.65 federal tax minus $19.62 FICA tax minus $7.70 for the state tax, and that gives $203.53. $203.53. That's the net pay. What percentage of your gross pay is withheld for taxes? So the difference, to find that information, you need to find out how much withheld here. So out of 256, that's the gross pay. The net pay is $203.53. So you have to find the difference between them, which is 256 minus this number. I'm going to subtract 256.50 cents from, sorry, that's wrong. $256.50 minus $203.53. That's the tax withheld, which is $52.97. We need to find out what is the percentage out of the gross pay. So the percentage is, you need to divide this number by the gross pay, which is $256.50. So I'm going to divide this by $256.50. That's the percentage, which is 0.20, which means if you move this decimal 2 digit to the right, that gives you the percentage, which is 20.65%. So nearest tenth is 20.7%. Nearest tenth means after decimal, we just want one digit. Okay, that's correct. To borrow money, you pawn your guitar. Based on the value of the guitar, the pawnbroker loans you 960 bucks. 1 month later, you get the guitar back by paying the pawnbroker 1,470 bucks. What annual interest rate did you pay? Okay, so you borrowed how much? 960. 960, and then you paid 1,470. So the total interest you paid is the difference, which is 1,470 minus 960. The difference is 510. So the 510 difference is for the interest. 1 month later, that's the interest for 1 month. So what annual interest rate did you pay? So there is a formula. The formula is simple interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Okay, we are interested to find the rate. In this case, we know the interest is 510, we know the principal is 960, and we know the time is 1 month, which is 1/12. So for finding the rate, you are dividing the interest by the principal times the time. So in this case, the interest is 510. Divide that by principal, which is 960, and then divide that by the time. Time is 1 month. So what you can do, you can first find out what is 1 month means in year, which is 1/12. So divide by this number. So how do you do that? You can just divide and then use the parentheses and then just do 1 divided by 12 inside that parenthesis if you don't want to do it separately. So this is the rate. You can see 6.375. If you want to find out the percentage, it's a 637.5%, because the rate you get is in decimal. So 1 means 100%. Here is a 6. So in percentage, round to the nearest whole number as needed. So in percentage, this is, you have to multiply that by 100 to get the percentage, which is 637.5, which is almost 638%. 638%. Remember, in this problem, you are paying 510 bucks in a month. So in a year, that will be, almost 12 times 500, which means, more than 6,000, which is the interest for 960 bucks. So which is 638%. Okay. A bank offers a CD that pays a simple interest rate of 3.5%. How much must you put in this CD now in order to have 2,000 bucks for a graduation trip in 2 years? Remember, simple interest formula is interest can be calculated using principal times rate times t. So eventually the future value, the future amount A is principal plus interest. So what is the interest? Interest is principal times rate times t. If you just factor p, that would be 1 plus r times t. So this is the formula. This is the relation between the future value equal the current value, the deposit, initial deposit, times 1 plus rt. So using this formula, if you would like to find out how much you have to deposit today to have 2,000 bucks in future, then what you can do is the principal is equal to the future value divided by 1 plus r times t. So in this case, the amount you want is 2,000 bucks, the time is 2 years, and then rate is 3.5%. So I'm going to use that information here. I'm going to divide 2,000, which is A, divide. Do not just type this thing as is. You have to use the parentheses when you are using the calculator. Otherwise, calculator would not understand what's going on. 1 plus, the rate is 0.035, which is 3.5%. Okay, and then times time is 2 year, parenthesis close. Now look, if you hit enter, that's the amount you need today to have 2000 bucks in 2 years. Nearest, round up to the nearest cents, that would be 1869 bucks 16 cents. 1869 bucks 16 cents. I'm going to look at this number one more time. 1869.16. Okay. Person A deposit 2850 bucks in an account that pays 5% interest compounded once a year. Person B deposit 2400 in an account that pays 6% interest compounded monthly. Compounded once a year and compounded monthly. So these are the two situations, and there are the formula you have given. So this is the formula. N stands for how many times in a year. So to solve this problem, we are going to use the first formula, compounded n times a year. A equal P times 1 plus R over n to the power n times t. That's the formula. So now let's go back here and then find out who will have more money in their account after 1 year. So let's calculate for both of them. So both of them, they have different P and different interest rate and different N. So we need to calculate for both of them. So I'm going to do that for the first one. Let's do that. This is the formula, don't forget about that. The principal for the first one is 2850. So that's 2850, and then 1 plus the rate is 0.05. It's a once a year, so that is 1 times for how long? So how much, who will have more money in their account after 1 year? So that's just 1 year. So 1 times 1 is 1. This is the number you have to calculate for A. And then for the B, use the same thing, but N would be compounded monthly, so N would be 12. So for the B, it would be 2400. 1 plus the rate is 6%, and then N is 12, and N times C is 12 times 1 because it's for 1 year, so 12. So these are the two numbers you are going to calculate. The first one is 2850 times 1 plus 0.05. So if you add this two number, it will be 1.05, which is 2992 bucks. 2992 bucks 50 cents. That's what the future value for person A. For the person B, it's a 2400 times. This time we have to type everything here because there is 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12, parenthesis close, and then power of that parenthesis, which is 12 times 1 is 12. So the person B gets $2,548. So that is $2,548 point, let's say 0.02 cents. Okay, if it's 2 decimal, it's supposed to be 3 cents because there is a 6, so you have to round up. So look at here, who makes more money, person A or person B? Person A makes more money than person B. How much more? The difference is, if you subtract 2992.5 minus 25.48, 3 cents, that's the difference, $444.47. So person A will have $444 and then 47 cents more than person B. Okay, that's the answer. Who will have more money in their account after 5 years? How much more? Select the correct choice. Who will have more money in their account after 20 years? For the rest of the calculation, it's just changing different n. That's all. You know, it's just changing different n. In this formula, for n, it would be different for different scenario. That's all. So you can do this. Let me just check the answer. Always, I think it's person A. Okay, let me just calculate it. I'm going to calculate this. Okay, so in this question, I have to correct one thing. Here, the answer is supposed to be round to the nearest dollar. The answer I got here, when you find the difference between them, the nearest dollar is 444 bucks. And then part B and part C, they are very similar. The only difference is in part B, the number of years 5, and in part C, the number of years 20. So in the formula, in this formula, we are just going to replace t by 5 and 20 for both of them. I already did this calculation here because it takes time. So I'm just going to show you briefly for A. 2850 times 1 plus 0.05 to the power 5, and then for the B, 2400 times 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12 to the power 12 times 5, because n times t, n is 12 for monthly and time is 5 years. By using that, person A makes more money, which is $400.16. If you round it to the nearest dollar, it would be $400. And for 20 years, person B makes more money than person A. So that's the twist. If you go longer, then monthly, compounded monthly pays more. Will you earn more interest in 1 year by putting $3,000, depositing $3,000 in a simple interest account that pays 6%, or in an account that pays 5.9% interest compounded daily? So you can just use the formula here, calculate the simple interest formula. Remember, the simple interest formula means I equal P times R times T. So how much interest you are going to make? It's a 3,000 times 6% in a year, right? Times 1. So that's the interest you are going to get with the simple interest formula, 180 bucks. For the compounded daily, this is the formula we're going to use. N is replaced by 360 because there are 360 days according to the banker's rule. And then we calculate the future value, and then we subtract the principal from the future value to get the interest. But a simple interest is 180 bucks, so just put that information here, 180 bucks simple interest. And by using this formula, I'm going to type that 3,000 bucks times, inside the parentheses, 1 plus rate is 0.059 divided by 360 because it's a daily, and then to the power is 360 times 1 year, so that's just 360. If you do that, this is the amount you are going to receive for 3,000 bucks. The difference, if you subtract 3,000, which is the original money, the difference is your interest, so which is 182 bucks 31 cents. So 182 bucks 31 cents. So from compounded daily, that makes the more money. So you will earn more interest in this compounded. How much more? The difference. The difference is $2.31, and round to the nearest dollar. So that means $2 more than the simple interest formula. Okay, you invest a 1,750 in an account paying 5.7% interest compound daily. What is the account effective annual yield? Remember, there is a formula. This is the formula, y equal 1 plus r over n to the power n minus 1. This is the account annual yield. You are going to use this formula to calculate that. So for this problem, rate is 5.7%, n is 360 because it's compounded daily. I'm going to just use that here. Parenthesis parenthesis. Okay, let me just parenthesis 1 plus rate is 0.057 divide by 360 because it's compounded daily, and then to the power 360 because to the power n, and then minus 1. So just hit that number minus 1, and that is the interest and what is that, yield, effective annual yield. If you want to convert that into percentage, move this decimal 2 digit to the right. That would be 5.865 percentage. Round to the nearest 100. That means 5.87 because there is a 5 after 6, so you have to round up. That's 6, so that would be 5.87. 5.87. At the age of 32, to save for retirement, you decide to deposit $30 at the end of each month in an IRA that pays 4.5% compounded monthly. Use the following formula to determine how much you will have in IRA when you retire at age 65. So you have to use, because it's monthly, you have to use this formula. This is the formula if it's once a year, and this is the formula if you deposit n times a year. So this is the formula we're going to use. P is $30, rate is 4.5%, n is, it's a monthly, so 12. Time is difference between your age and then 65, so 65 minus 32 is 33 years. So those are the information we're going to put in the calculator. I'm going to use calculator here. I'm going to type it like deposit, regular deposit $30 times parenthesis. Remember, here is the bracket. I don't have the bracket on this calculator, so I use the double parenthesis. 1 plus the rate is 0.045 divided by 12 because it's a monthly, parenthesis close, to the power, here is n times t. Do not use n times t here, just multiply n times t, which is 12 times the number of years, which is 65 minus 32, 33 years. So I have to do that calculation separately. So what is 12 times 35? Let me just use another calculator here. Calculator. 12 times 33, which is 396. So here on the exponent I type 396. Remember, this 396 is n times t. T is the number of years, which is 65 minus 32, which is 33 years, times 12. So after this calculation, minus 1, parenthesis close, hit enter. That's the number on the top. Divide that by parenthesis. Do not forget to put the parenthesis. R over n, which is 0.045, divide by 12, parenthesis close, and hit enter. That's the amount you are going to receive after 33 years. But this is the total amount. If you are looking for, what is that, you will have approximately 27,221 nearest dollars. So that means 27,222. 27,222. And then out of this, because you put money in the account, regular $30, 12 times a year for next 33 years. So if you multiply all that, that gives you the total money from your pocket, 11,880. The difference is coming from the interest. So you have to subtract this number from 27,222. So 27,222 minus, I forgot that number, so I'm going to do that 30 times 12 times 33. Don't forget to put the parentheses, which is 15,342 is coming from the interest. 15,342. 15,342. Okay. You would like to have 3,500 in 5 years for a special vacation following graduation by making a deposit at end of every 6 months in an annuity that pays 4% compounded semi-annually. Answer part A and B. Keep in mind, this is the formula that gives you regular deposit. This is the annuity value, and this is the how much regular payment you have to make to get this annuity value. In this case, you would like to have 3,500, so annuity is already given. You want to find out how much regular payment you have to find. That's the reason you have to use this second formula. In this second formula, A is 3,500, R is 4%, N is its compounded semi-annually, N is 2, rate is, where is the rate? 4%, and that's all. So I'm going to use this calculator directly to calculate this. A is 3,500, that's what we want, times, use the parenthesis, rate is 4%, divide that by 2 because semi-annually means 2 times a year. Hit enter, divide that by this bracket and parenthesis things. I don't have the bracket, so I'm going to use 2 parentheses, 1 plus rate is 4% divide by 2 parenthesis close to the power n times t, which is 2 times how many years? 5 years. So 2 times 5 is 10. Always do that multiplication outside. Minus 1 parenthesis close, hit enter. So this is the regular payment, regular deposit you have to do twice a year for next 5 years to get that 3,500, which is, if you round it to the nearest dollar, the answer would be $319, $320 in 6 months, at the end of every 6 months. How much of the 3,500 comes from deposit and how much comes from the earning? So out of 3,500, if you make $320 twice a year, 320 times 2, that means for 1 year, for next 5 years, you have to multiply that by 2 times 5, which is 3,200 is coming from your money, your deposit, which is 3,200, and then rest 300 is coming from the interest. 300 is coming from the interest. Okay, suppose that between the age of 22 and 26, you contribute 8,000 per year to 401k, and your employer contribute 4,000 bucks per year on your behalf. The interest rate is 8.7% compounded annually. What is the value of 401k after 4 years? Suppose that after 4 years working for this firm, you move on to a new job. However, you keep your accumulated retirement funds in the 401k. How much will you have in the plan when you reach age 65? There are different parts, part A, B, and C. What is the difference? What is the difference between the amount of money you will have accumulated in the 401k and the amount you contributed? So let's try to find out each part separately. The value of 401k after 4 years is, remember, each year you are contributing 8,000 bucks and your employer is contributing 4,000 bucks. So altogether it's contributing 12,000 bucks. And interest rate is 8.7% compounded annually. So what is the amount for the 12,000? So you contribute, you and your employer contribute 12,000 bucks per year. That's your contribution. And then the rate is 8.7%. So that's R. The time is 4 years. After 4 years, how much money you will have? The money you will have is, if you look at the formula, this is the future value. What is that? This one is the future value. That's the annuity formula. Okay, it's an annuity because every single year that's a regular deposit. and this is the compound n times a year. This is just 1 times a year. Okay, so that's the difference between these two formula. This is NUT and this is 1 time. So in our case we're going to use this formula for this case. So look at these values, and then use the calculator. So principal is 12,000, not the principal, the regular deposit, 12,000 per year, parenthesis, I'm using the bracket, again parenthesis, 1 plus rate is 8.75%, divide by once a year, so that is just 1, to the power n times t, which is 1 times 4 years, so that is power 4. Take power 4 of that, and minus 1 parenthesis close. I calculated this top part. Now I'm going to divide this by this bottom part, which is rate is 0.087, and divide by 1 because it's annually, and then hit enter. This is the amount you are going to get after 4 years, which is 54,635. 54,000, if you round it to the nearest dollar, it would be 54,635. 54,635. That would be the value after 4 years. For the part B, the money accumulated in the plan when reaching age 65 is. So let's read the part B. Suppose that after 4 years of working for this firm, you move on to the new job. So the meaning is you are not contributing any additional money to this account. So this is the value of your account at the end of the 4 years. What happens to this value after, suppose that you keep in mind you worked there until 26. After 26 you left that job, and then your money we would like to calculate at the age 65. So the difference is 65 minus 26. For next 39 years you're just keeping this money in that account, which pays you 8.7% without additional money. In this case you have to use this formula, because the money you put there, that 54,635, that's a one-time deposit. There will be no more extra additional deposit. So this is the formula you have to use. So the P means initial value, which is 54,635 times 1 plus the same rate, which is 8.7%, divide by compounded annually, so it's a one time a year, and then to the power how many years. The difference is 39 years, because 65 years minus 26 is 39, and it's compounded annually, so 39 times 1 is 39 itself. So if you hit enter, this is the amount you are going to get after 39 years. So that is, if you round it to the nearest dollar, that would be 1,413,915 dollars. So 1,413 bucks, 413,915 bucks. What is that? 1,413,915. 915 if you round it to the nearest dollar. Oh, this amount is, sorry, this goes to okay, here that's not there. 1413915. 1,413,915. The difference between the amount of money you will have accumulated in 401k and amount you contributed to the plan. Remember, you just contributed how much? What is the difference between the amount of money you will have accumulated in 401? So you contributed just, I'm not so sure, either they just want from your part, or The difference between the amount of money you will have accumulated in 401 and the amount you contributed to the plan. Okay, this is a little bit confusing. If they are thinking like your contribution 8,000 bucks per year for 4 years, which is 32,000 only, or 4,000 bucks additional, which is 12,000 times 4 years is 48,000. So if I subtract, I'm going with the 48,000 because employer is also part of me. So I'm going to subtract. Okay, okay, 1,413,000, 1,413,000, 1,413,915 minus 48,000. Keep in mind this 48,000 is coming from you, 8,000 per year, and then your employer, which is 4,000 per year. So altogether it's a 12,000 per year for 4 years, which is 48,000. That's what I'm doing. So the answer is supposed to be 1,365,915. 1,365,915. Let me just go back. 1,365,915, and let's check the answer. Okay, look, the answer is not right. The third part, I think they did not include the employer contribution, which is 4,000 per year for 4 years, which is 16,000. So I'm going to add 16,000 as well. So if I do that, sorry, I'm going to subtract 16,000. No, I'm going to add 16,000, which is, because if you subtract this minus just 8,000 times 12, 8,000 times 4, which is 32,000. So let's do that. This minus, which is 1,413,915 minus 32,000, which is just the contribution from you, which is 1,381,950. So 381,000. Okay, that's 100% right. So look, the part C, what is the difference? The amount of money you will have accumulated in the 401k and the amount you contributed. So you contributed, not your employer. That was the confusing part here. So don't worry. After this point, you see, they are not talking about the employer. They are just talking about your contribution. Use the formula. Suppose that you drive 50,000 miles per year and gas average $4 per gallon. So 15,000 per 50,000 miles, $4 per gallon. What will you save in annual fuel expenses by owning a hybrid car averaging 50 miles per gallon rather than an SUV averaging 25 miles per gallon? So remember, the saving is 25 miles per gallon. So out of 50,000, if you own hybrid, how many gallons you need? You need 50,000 divide by 50 gallons, so total 1,000 gallon, which cost you 4,000 because 1,000 gallons times 4 is 4,000, but it's 1,000 gallon. But if you use SUV, which is 50,000 divide by 25 miles per gallon, so which takes 2,000 gallon. So for hybrid, it takes 1,000 gallon. For the SUV, which takes 2,000 gallon. So the total difference is 1,000 gallon. Per gallon is $4. So for the 1,000 gallon, it will cost 4,000 bucks more. What will you save in annual fuel expense, which is 4,000 bucks? If you deposit your monthly fuel saving at the end of each month into an annuity that pays 4.8% compounded monthly, how much will have saved at the end of 8 years? Okay, how much is the saving per year? So what will you save in annual fuel expenses? Annually we save 4,000 bucks. Monthly, just divide that by 12, which is 4,000 bucks divided by 12 is 333 bucks point 33 cents. If you deposit your monthly fuel saving, which is this much, $300.33, $333.33 per month. That's what I'm assuming, because 4,000 is yearly saving. Then what is the monthly saving? I just divide that by 12. If I deposit regularly there and with the 4.8% compounded monthly, so I'm going to use this formula. This is the amount for the P times bracket parenthesis 1 plus the rate is 0.048 divided by 12 parenthesis close to the power how many years? 8 years. So 8 years means 8 times 12 is 96. You have to multiply that because n times t is 96 minus 1 parenthesis close enter, divide that by rate which is 0.48 divide by 12 because it's a monthly, and then hit enter. This is the saving you will have, 38,918 bucks. 38,918 bucks. 38,918 bucks. Look, just switching from SUV which average 25 miles per gallon to hybrid which is 50 miles per gallon, in 8 years you're going to save 38,918 bucks. Okay, suppose that two certain cars have the following average operating and ownership cost. Car A, operating cost is 0.28, average cost per mile that, ownership 0.72, total 1 bucks. Car B, total 0.40 cents. If you drive 20,000 miles per year, by how much does the total annual expense for car A exceed that of car B over 9 years? So over 9 years, this is per year, average cost per mile for 20,000 miles per year, and then 9 years means it's how many miles? 20,000 per year times 9, that's 180,000 miles. For the first car, the cost is 180,000 times 1, which is 180,000, and for the second car, times it by 0.40, which is 72,000. So the total annual expense for car A exceeds that of car B by, you have to subtract this from 180,000. I'm going to subtract it by 180,000, make it positive because I'm subtracting a higher number than lower number. So over 9 years, car A cost 108,000 bucks more than car B. 108,000 bucks more than car B. Okay, this is a credit card question. The credit card with the transaction described in the pop-up below uses the average daily balance method to calculate interest. The monthly interest rate is 1.2% of the average daily balance. Calculate parts A through D using the statement in the pop-up. Okay, this is the statement. Transaction description. Previous balance is 2,651 bucks 11 cents. June 1 billing date. June 6 payment 1,000 bucks. June 8 charge gas $34.25, and then blah blah blah. Find the average daily balance for the billing period. Round to the nearest cents. The average daily balance for the billing period is, okay, the question number 19 I picked before. It was a wrong problem. I know that was not part of the question. So I changed that question. So it's updated now. So let's look at this problem. Use PMT, which is regular payment formula, to determine the regular payment amount rounded to the nearest dollar. Your credit card has a balance of 3,200 and an annual interest rate of 15%. You decided to pay off the balance over 5 years. If there are no further purchase charged to the card, how much must you pay each month? So use this formula. The balance is 3,200, rate is 15%, and then you would like to pay in 5 years. So time is 5, and the percentage is annual interest rate 15%, and then you are planning to find how much must you pay each month. So it's the monthly payment you would like to find. So n is 12. So to do that, you have to just put the information on calculator, which is 3,200 times parentheses rate is 15%, divided by 12 because it's monthly payment, enter, that is the number on the top, divide that by bracket, I don't have the bracket, so parentheses 1 minus another parentheses 1 plus the rate is 15%, divide by monthly payment, so 12, and then the power is negative. Before you use the negative sign, use n times t, which is 12 times 5, which is 60. Type 60 and use this symbol for the negative sign. Don't use this one. Okay, and then parenthesis close, hit enter. That's the regular payment you have to make for next 5 years, which is $76, and round to the nearest dollar, so it's a $76. So if you pay $76 for monthly for next 5 years, how much you are going to pay? $72 times monthly, which is 12 times 5. So this is the amount you're going to pay instead of 3,200. So if you subtract the 3,200, you're going to get the difference, which is the interest you are going to pay for that loan or that balance with that interest rate. I did something wrong. I don't know what is that. Let me go back. The answer is 76 point. Do not round until the final answer, then round to the nearest dollar as needed. That's what I did. Let me go back. It's 3,200, right? Times the interest rate is 15%, divide by the monthly payments, it's a 12, enter, divide by bracket 1 minus another parenthesis 1 plus 0.15, divide by 12, parenthesis close, power, and then 12 times 5, which is 60, minus parenthesis close, enter, which is $76, 12 cents, 13 cents. So do not round until the final, then round to the nearest dollar. So $76 times 60 is $4,567.66 minus 3,200, which is $1,368. Let me just use that number, $1,368, and I will go over that again. Okay, $68. Check answer. Okay, so here's the thing. What I did is, before I just used this $76 and times it by 60 and then subtracted 3,200 from that. But you are not supposed to do that, because in actual payment, though we rounded to the nearest dollar here, but there was a, the tiny bit of cents left over. If you multiply that cents 60 times, it will be huge amount of money. So do not use 76. Use whatever number you get, 76 point some cents, times it by 60, and then find out the actual payment you made. And then only after that subtract 3200 from that actual payment, not from this one. Okay. Okay, the very same formula to determine the regular payment amount round to the nearest dollar. Your credit card has a balance 3600 and an annual interest rate of 19% with no further purchase charged to the card and balance being paid off over 3 years. The monthly payment is $132 and the total interest paid is $1152. You can get a bank loan at 11.5% with a term of 4 years. Complete part A and B. How much will you pay each month? How much this compare with the credit card payment each month? Okay, there are two situations. One is a 3600 balance, interest 19%, and then for that you have to do the monthly payment $132 and you pay interest $1152. So now there is a loan, you can get a bank loan to make the payment for that one with the interest rate 11.5% with a term of 4 years. How much will you pay each month? If you take 3600 loan with 11.5% for 4 years, this is the formula. So 3600 is the balance. This is the formula you have to use. So let me go here. 3600 times rate is this time 11%, 11.5 divided by monthly payment. You get a bank loan of 11.5%. How much will you pay each month? That's why it's a monthly, parenthesis close. Divide that by this number, which is 1 minus 1 plus rate is 11.5 divided by 12, parenthesis close, to the power negative n times t. So 12 times 4 years, 48. 12 times 4 is 48, but you have to make it negative. Enter. This is the regular payment you have to make. The monthly payment is $33.86. The monthly payment for the bank loan are approximately, if you round it to the nearest dollar, it would be $34, which is, so $34, which is less than, the monthly payment of $132. Okay, for the 3 years. So the answer is part B. The monthly payment for the bank loan are approximately $34. Sorry, $34. $34, which is how much less than $132? 132 minus 34, which is 132 minus 34, that's $98 less than monthly credit card balance. Remember, this is the loan for 4 years, this is the payment for 3 years. How much total interest will you pay using this 34? So 34 times 12 times 4 years, which is approximately $1,632. I pay for, what is that? Did I miss something here? Yes, I did. So this is a mistake because it's supposed to be greater than 3600. So let me just go back and use this formula one more time. The initial balance is 3600 times the rate is 11.5% monthly divided by 12, divide parenthesis, I need to use the parenthesis, I didn't use the parenthesis, 1 minus another parenthesis 1 plus 0.11.5 divided by 12 to the power negative 48, because 12 times 4 is 48, parenthesis close, hit enter. That is 94 bucks, not 34 bucks. 94 bucks. This is 94 bucks, which is minus 132 minus 92 means 94 is 38 bucks less than 38 bucks less than credit card payments. Okay. But for 4 years, if you pay 94, this amount times 4 times 12, which is for the 4 years, you pay 4,508 bucks. So the total interest is 36 minus, which is 908 bucks. So the total interest paid for the bank is 908 bucks if you round it to the dollar. But what about the interest for the credit card? The credit card interest is 1152. So subtract this number from 1152, but make it positive. So this is the $243.81, which is approximately $244 less. So the total interest paid over 4 years for the bank loan is approximately 908 bucks, which is approximately, if you subtract from 244, is that 44? 244, yes. Subtract from the interest you have to pay for the credit card is 244. Okay, so you calculate the interest from the bank loan and then you subtract that from the credit card loan. Okay, so that's all for the test review 2.